archaeology. Get out of there, Dan.
And now we're live. How do we sound?
Okay, well, welcome to episode 17 of You Call This Archaeology. We're going to take a second here and check our levels and make sure we sound okay. So we don't, there's a delay on my side here when I'm listening to Facebook though, so I need to make sure that sounds good. And I think that sounds actually not too bad. Richie, why don't you do a mic check real quick?
Oh, testing over here. Just what people like seeing during a live stream.
I know. So,
testing.
Well, you know, it's a live stream, so there's going to be some issues.
True.
We've got still a little bit of
really?
crazy static, but it's not terrible. It's not as bad as it was last time. So,
at least these aren't drunken streams.
That's true. That's true. Well, let's introduce our special guest, star of several episodes of the Arc 365 podcast, and I think we may have done something else together, the Archaeology show or something. I can't remember. But Stuart Rathbone. Stuart, how's it going?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's a bit new. I've not done one of these live before. I'm a bit worried I might accidentally say something I mean. And
that's right.
There's no taking it back then.
We love that though.
I know. So I will put a plug out for anyone watching this. Archaeology Podcast Network t-shirts and coffee mugs available. arcpodnet.com/shop.
Oh, what about the hat?
The hat is custom. There's only one like it in the world. And there will be until people buy this other shit so I can afford to make more hats. The hat cost me over $50 because I had the first one is expensive. You know, when you have the art digitized and stuff.
Wow.
I know. If I ever do it, I'll have the same guy that did the shirts do the hats, and then they'll be like $9 a piece. So that'll be nice. All right. Well, I put in the first comment here, and then and I put on Arc Field Tech's a comment as well. We may as well get this out of the way right away.
Really?
Well, we may as well just do it because I need to get it out of the box because it's my phone still. So today, if you're watching this live, it's November 3rd, and Apple released the iPhone X that most people are calling it, or iPhone 10. I think Apple would just prefer iPhone X because they don't want to acknowledge the fact that they skipped 9. But the reason for the 10, for anybody that didn't know, is it is the 10-year anniversary of the very first iPhone. So they wanted to commemorate that with a complete redesign, and a complete redesign and just a new numbering system. So who knows what the next one's going to be? Are they going to stick with Roman numerals? It's going to be the X Plus. Is it going to be what the hell's it going to be?
13.
So
It'll be like following with the Xbox. You know, the numbers don't matter.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just going to be iPhone. Yeah. Well, that is interesting that you said that, Stuart, because it does just say iPhone on the side of the box, whereas other models have said 7 Plus, 8 Plus, whatever. My wife's got the 8 Plus, and this just says iPhone right on the side of the box. So I'm going to show you some things here real quick. This is our kind of janky unboxing because I unboxed it this morning because I couldn't wait for you bastards. Any Apple iPhone, if you've never unboxed a new one, there's always this little thing with stickers and instructions on the top of it, and then you see the phone sitting right there.
Ooh.
Oops. Yeah, let's pull that out.
Oh, and you get a new pair of earbuds.
I know. In the box is always their pair of earbuds. They've gone a little cheap now. The last couple of models have had like this cardboard thing, which I guess is not cheap. It's more environmentally friendly. They used to come in this really fancy plastic case, but now they come in that. So, but here's the phone. My first impressions actually are I mean, honestly, the screen looks just like any other iPhone. I have the 7 Plus sitting right here, so the screen is just as good as far as I can tell. This screen is supposed to be brighter. I haven't had much of a chance to play with that. It's supposed to be better on the colors, things like that. One thing you'll notice immediately is that when set next to the 7 Plus, it's way smaller. And the reason for that is the bezel is gone. You know, it's edge-to-edge display, whereas here you can play with it a little bit.
Oh my God!
It's
so Apple's arrived in 2017.
Well, yeah, I mean, I love it though. I love the fact that the screen real estate is bigger,
Yeah.
but the phone itself is smaller. That is an advancement in technology right there. And I'll tell you what, though, it was a little shocking when I opened the box this morning. It was like, I had to look at the box. I was like, wait a minute, somebody send me a 6? You know, like, what the hell just happened? Did I get screwed? Nope, sure enough, it was the iPhone X. And I was just... Did it let you in? Because of the Face ID.
Came to the,
you and I shouldn't look too similar. But the iPhone X, it feels a little bit thicker too, and I think it is a little bit thicker because they put a little bigger battery in here. Another way you can tell that somebody's rocking an X and not a 6 when you see it in the wild is the cameras. First off, the 6 doesn't have dual cameras.
That surprised me that it was sticking out like that.
Yeah, well, they had to make it stick out because of the lenses. It's just too complex. And also, it's vertical, whereas with the iPhone 8 and 7, it's horizontal on the top.
Yeah.
So
is that bringing an actual optical zoom now, or?
Well, the 7 brought an optical zoom too. Actually, the 7 Plus there has an optical zoom up to 2x, and then digital zoom beyond that.
See, I've got a 5. What do I know?
I'm just saying. Well, and I don't want to spend the whole show talking about this, but some of my
Yeah, he does.
I know I do. Some of my first impressions with this are the Face ID works really well so far, and in fact, they made you do 2 face detection tests initially, and then as I was walking here, I had sunglasses on and my hat, whereas when I set it up, I didn't, and it actually failed the first time I looked at it. But then I set it down, brought it back up, and it actually worked. So
wow.
Yeah, let me see. And I restarted the phone, so I had to enable Face ID with a passcode. But so that was crazy. It worked with the sunglasses on, and it picked me up, which makes you think, well, is it not as good? But it's picking up thousands of facial points. So look at the rest of my face, and now it's stored me with sunglasses. So now it has me with sunglasses. So
So you're going to be swapping out disguises, fake moustaches,
right?
See how far you can go with that.
Well, I don't know. We'll have to play with this and see how it goes, because it will identify me in the winter in the field with a full face mask with just my eyes showing. Probably not. But one thing I do like about this, if you don't have to do anything complicated with your phone, but you need to pick it up and it's wintertime, you've got gloves on, you need to pull it out of your vest and really just launch an app and launch the camera app or something like that, and then you can take photos with the volume button. You can do all that with your voice. So you can just Face ID the phone open, use Siri to launch the camera, use Siri to take a picture if you want, or you can just push the outside button. And you could do all that without touching fingers to the device, which is nice when it's super cold out and you don't want to get frostbite. So, yeah, that's my first impression of that. The camera is fantastic, as it was on the 7 Plus. They've improved it just a little bit, and that's about it. I would say if you're using a 7 or you went and bought the 8, obviously you probably don't need the X. However, if you're probably 6 and back, you'll benefit from the faster processor, the longer battery life, and the better cameras if you're using it for field work. If you're not, and you're just using it as a social phone device, then you're still probably fine.
Yeah.
The only big difference, and we've talked about this on the Archaeotech podcast, is iOS 11. Be careful upgrading to iOS 11 because they changed the way iOS 11 is coded to 64-bit from 32-bit, and they made it requirement for 64-bit apps. So all 32-bit apps are unsupported on iOS 11, which means app developers, if you're using an app that is no longer supported or they're not very fast on supporting it, it's like some kid in his basement creating this app, then it might not work for a while.
You're done.
So
What's the GPS like on it?
haven't really had a chance to play with it yet. The GPS on the 7 Plus works really well. It's especially if you're moving. When you're comparing it with a Trimble and stuff like that, the coordinates it displays are spot on with any other high accuracy GPS device. Obviously, the accuracy that it's reporting is not going to be as good because it just doesn't have that capability. But so if you're looking for all the right numbers that you're getting off a high accuracy GPS device, you're not going to get those. But if you're looking to just have find out where your coordinates are and find an object, find something that you have coordinates for, no problem. Yeah, piece of cake. So.
Oh my god, you know what's interesting? Using an iPhone for a week for that job I no longer have.
Which we'll talk about.
Maybe. Well, I was very disturbed to see that you couldn't turn off the GPS.
You couldn't turn it off?
No.
Yeah. Well,
Or I just couldn't figure it out.
You know why?
Why?
because they probably had phone tracking turned on, so they could tell where you are at all times. Now, when I worked for Codify, we were starting to get into the Apple. Now I'm forgetting the name. The Apple device management system, basically.
Yeah.
You have the ability remotely to go in on this interface that you get from a third-party company, actually, and then I can go in and change your passcode. I can change your wallpaper. I can turn certain things on and off. I can make it so some settings you have zero access to, and some settings you do. So they probably have Find My iPhone turned on, and they probably made it so you can't turn off your GPS, so they can't not find you.
Oh, so it's almost like perfect for company phones.
It's perfect, yeah. I would do the same thing, even for archaeologists, because
see, that's what
I mean, some people might think it's a Big Brother thing, and some people are going to use it that way. But also, if a field tech drops a phone in the field, I'm going to know exactly where it's at. You know, this phone is $1,200. This $1,200 phone that somebody just dropped in the field, I want to know exactly where it's at. I don't care if you think I'm Big Brother. I'm probably not going to spy on your location unless it's 6 p.m. and you were due back by 4.
Yeah. But there is the missing field tech as well, you know.
Which we've all seen.
It's hard to quantify how much they're worth, but probably more than 1,200.
And how many crew chiefs have sent back field techs for their walkie-talkies or
for
GPS
radios,
and stuff like that?
Honestly, when a field tech's billing out at $70 an hour, probably minimum at most companies, I'm probably not going to send them back for a $40 radio. You know what? I'm probably going to just buy a new one because it's cheaper for me to do that than have them take the vehicle, take a crew, go look for a stupid radio.
You've never met any of the office managers I've
Jesus
worked for.
Christ.
No way.
See?
That
Dude,
makes
people don't think
perfect
about
sense, but no.
People don't think about that. They're like, go get the radio. No, let's go to Walmart and buy 2 more for $60
Oh my
with
god!
a charger, and they're brand new.
Or paying someone to organize flags by color, or whirling them up.
Pin flags. I almost throw pin flag. The metal pin flags. I'll throw those away on a project, even if they're good, because they're to prove a point. They're so cheap. I'll buy new ones the next time. I'm not going to store those in my storage area. I'm not going to clean them. Now I've got some of the fiberglass ones for the project we did where we needed those. Those kind of last forever. They don't bend. Well, they do bend, but I still have those because
but they're still hard to get in the ground.
Well, but we had to use them.
Oh.
Yeah. So the way it was a metal detecting project, and also around ordnance, they suggested using them. So anyway, so let's. You brought Stuart on. What are we going to talk about today, Stuart?
Oh my God! What are you thinking about American archaeology? Are you enjoying it at all?
Yeah, it's getting better. It's took a lot to get used to. Should possibly explain that. I've been living in America for 3 years now. I spent most of my career so far in Ireland, although I'm English. Yeah, that's a long story in itself, but yeah. So coming out to Nevada from the sort of big excavations I've been involved in to this constant survey work took a lot of getting used to. And to be honest, I still don't find it as interesting. But I've been doing, the last 6 months, I've been doing a lot of historic building recording. Which
really?
is, yeah.
Neat.
Downtown Reno, actually.
Oh,
so we haven't had to travel, which is really nice. We haven't been living in cheap motels in the desert. Been able to stay at home. And yeah, actually doing the building recording, which is something I've done a lot of back home, but I would be doing more functional and structural recording, with ruins. So you're analysing a ruined building and stonework and stuff. And this is obviously intact houses that are still occupied, so more a stylistic recording. So yeah, I've been enjoying that a lot more than that endless hunt for another tin can at the top of the hill. I don't know how I don't find that so satisfying.
Nice.
I just enjoyed the physical aspect. Maybe that's wrong of me.
Yeah, no, and that's cool. The being at the top of a hill and knowing that very few people are climbing this particular hill, or did a wonderful job out in the Plumas Forest, where you're down in the bottom of some of these valleys, struggling to get a GPS signal, of course, but just thinking, when was the last time anyone passed through here? So yeah, the nature side of it has been nice.
Ooh, I bet some of those buildings you went in were also safe, because I also remember being on a project where all the wall panels said asbestos in them. And it was my job to go inside and take photos.
Yeah, it's a very common building material in downtown.
Oh, wait, really?
Well, the cladding, all that asbestos siding,
Mm-hmm.
which again we wouldn't see too much of back home. And I now know a lot more about Reno.
Ooh. Oh, what'd you learn?
Well, about 4th Street and the disaster that was the putting in of I-80 and the spaghetti bowl and what it did to the town. And that's weird because I do a lot of thrift shopping, so I'm often down there and not really knowing why it was so run down.
Right.
And even when we were looking at buying a house, we were seeing all these truncated streets, and now I know the history of why it happened and what didn't get thought about.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was interesting, and I think there's a lot of redevelopment planned down there. So it's probably a nice chance to see it all before it gets knocked down. I think something very odd about this town is the more historic buildings are in the worst condition and are due to be demolished.
Yeah.
Huge blocks of them that are now lived in by people devoted to smoking crack and other such things. So
There's a number of hotels on 4th Street, those weekly hotels that are just closed down.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And of course, I don't know if this is part of the redevelopment or not, but I just drove down it the other day, and 4th Street is one long construction project right now. I mean, it's totally they're working on something on the streets. I don't know what it is, but I guess that's encouraging to see they're doing something.
Yeah, and they want to move the homeless people out and get rid of the strip clubs and all sorts of things are going on down there. The university's pushing a lot of it.
Wait, really?
Yeah, because they between the university and the centre of town, you've got quite a waste zone. Which, they've got plans to put up a huge new accommodation block in there.
Right.
But yeah, very odd because you can cross from one side of the street, you've got a nice block still in good condition, and then right on the other, it's just derelict. And it's pretty strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's like traditional Reno. That's one of the reasons I like this town.
I mean, if you get rid of the crappy hotels and crackheads and strip joints, what is Reno? I mean, seriously. I mean, that's what people know Reno as. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
I know if the strippers want to go out and protest, I'll march alongside them. It's very unfair.
That is unfair. Outstanding. We'll get into some more archaeology, but I'm dying to hear about Richie's Black Widow experiment, and how much you're willing to say about pushing through spider webs. Because I'll tell you what, Richie.
Yeah.
I got a bone to pick with you, and I've been saving it for this podcast.
Oh, really? Good.
Yes. I have pushed through my share of spider webs as an archaeologist.
So have I.
When I worked in the South, my God, when I first learned about the banana spider, the fact that it's not poisonous, but I didn't know that, it's 2 inches across. And you're surrounded by them. And it's like, hey, you bastard, because you're crashing through the forest to do a shovel test.
Yeah.
And you may or may not see a bunch of spiders, but when you get to a point where you're just like, I remember this one distinctly where I was bound and determined to put my shovel test right exactly where it had to go. And I bashed through these bushes and stuff with my shovel and my screen. And then I looked around, didn't see anything. But then once you settle down that activity, right, and you get to digging your shovel test, you're head down, you're digging your shovel test, you're doing it in the screen. It was in an area of Georgia at the time where you can practically put the whole shovel test, because it's all one strat, and you put the whole thing in your screen at once, and then you lift up your screen and you're just left with artifacts. So I'm recording the artifacts, and I stand up, I'm writing my notes, and as I lift my head up to contemplate whatever witty thing I'm about to say in my shovel test notes, I'm just like surrounded by spiders because I'd scared them away, and then they settle in and they come just like alligators do. They settle in and they came back, and now I'm just, oh my God, I'm getting the creeps just thinking about it. I'm just surrounded by these damn spiders, and there's nothing else I could do, and I ended up just like doing some sort of Bruce Lee thing with my shovel where I was like winging it around my head. I was freaked out, man. I couldn't handle it. So
But at least you were in the open.
Kind of. I mean, I was in forests.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, my job was to crawl underneath this house, on my belly,
Yeah.
and I'm already mildly claustrophobic. And then, my instructor's like, yeah, just reach through and grab the cable.
Reach through like a dark spider-infested hole.
No,
Yeah.
well, there was like a very thick web, and you could see the spiders, and then he's like grabbing it, and my instructor's like, you want to switch? And I'm like, sure. And then he does it, and then for the next 2 days, he is writhing around in pain from being bitten by a black widow.
Oh my god.
And that's when I thought, well, maybe this job isn't for me.
Yeah.
I also saw too much of like the surrounding areas. I probably shouldn't slander Sun Valley, but I don't think there's anything to say that's hasn't been said about it.
There was an abandoned car fire that started a brush fire just like 2 days ago in Sun Valley. So, well, I will say you're actually, I was giving you shit for it, but it's a good example of, we got so many people in archaeology that take a job that, they're not happy with the circumstances. Maybe it's the crew, maybe it's the environment, maybe it's the project. Who knows? But they stick it out because, well, they've got bills to pay.
Yeah.
And you've got some other things on the horizon, so you're like, okay, I think I'm just going to call this right here. I'm not going to push through it. It's not for me. I'm going to make that call.
Yeah.
And while I wouldn't say in CRM, while I wouldn't say necessarily quit your job the minute you stop liking it, I would say, and I've done this, start looking for something new, and then when they make that phone call, say, hey, I've got to give some notice here on this project. Sorry, I got to go, but this is for my career. I know you guys aren't going to keep me on after this. You say you have stuff, but you really don't. So I'm going to go to this other project. Don't burn any bridges if you don't have to, but look out for yourself and look out for your own career.
True.
Have you learned that at all in 3 years here, Stuart?
Well, same old story, isn't it? You've got the employees often give much better loyalty than the companies do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all feel guilty about screwing over people. Oh, well, they've done right by me and I don't want to leave them in the lurch. And, that project gets cancelled at short notice, they won't even hesitate to kick you out.
Yep. Yeah, you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I've talked about this before in blog posts in my book and probably on the podcast as well. It seems like there's this interesting. I mean, CRM, as we said hundreds of thousands of times, is not like every other job.
No.
So we got to stop treating it like that. But then again, we all do treat it like that sometimes, in the fact that employers expect loyalty out of their employees, right? And in a normal 9 to 5, where you might work there for 20 years, it's expected to expect loyalty from your employees, right? Mm-hmm. They're not going to screw you over. They're going to come to work every day. They're going to do their job. They're not going to sell your company secrets to somebody else. You expect that kind of loyalty. And then employees expect a certain amount of loyalty from the employer in that they're not going to get fired at a moment's notice. The employer is going to continue to find work for them to do. And I'm not talking about just CRM, but any business. Yeah. You're going to continue to have a job with benefits, and you're going to have all these things. That's the expectation we have on both sides. And for some reason, we have that in CRM. And I think that it's okay to have loyalty back and forth, but the loyalty needs to be in different ways. One of those ways should not be job security. We should just assume that job is going to end and that we have to find another one. Even if you're salaried somewhere or full-time somewhere, you should just always be working on your skill set and always assume that you're not going to have a job. Hell, the company you work for laid everyone off 2 weeks before Christmas, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
2-3 years ago? I mean, and they didn't do it out of any sort of malice. They just didn't have any work. That's how it goes.
And they're not, by and large, they're not providing any training or anything. We're turning up at the company's fully skilled.
Yep.
We're bringing all the skills to them. They're not investing in us as people. So that's very different from normal levels of employment.
Which kind of makes sense. On one hand, it's like, why would the employer invest in you when 99% of the chance of the time you're going to be gone soon? Mm-hmm. But then again, when they get another employee, that they would like that employee to be highly trained. So maybe if we thought a little more socialist and egalitarian about the whole thing, it would to be like, hey, if I train you, Stuart, to do this, to be a GIS expert while you're out here, if I train you in these things, but then you leave and go for another company, I think it's more like prisoner's dilemma, actually. If I train you and you go to another company with your GIS skills, and then maybe that company's training somebody to do, something else, to be a ceramics expert, and when they get laid off, now they come work for me and I just hired a ceramics expert, but they just got a GIS expert. And if we all train then eventually we train up the entire workforce.
Yeah, with the mobility between people, it's going to come back round.
Right.
That's for sure.
You would think.
But no one wants to pay to do that and put the
No.
time into people.
No. That's true. That's true. So, I don't know. But I guess Richie, you're figuring it out because.
Yeah. Well, hopefully.
Well, and you're back with the APN for a little while, so the loss of your other employer is my gain.
Yeah. Well,
So-
God, at this rate, I might need 2 jobs.
I know. The APN's not totally flush with cash, but I've got
True.
I've got some things and some stuff that Richie can do. If you listen to Arc 365 podcast,
Yeah.
around now-ish time, November 3rd and 4th, some of the episodes, a lot of the episodes coming up here, Richie's writing, which is really saving me a lot of time.
Oh
So,
my God! And I had the craziest idea.
Yeah.
Go back to the bookstore full time, help you out, like maybe 5 hours a week
Nice.
to make up for my rent increase, and then study to do Seth's thing.
There you
I'm
go.
not gonna say what it is out loud because I want to keep it all myself. But
Nice. Nice. Well,
Which
he was on last episode, or 2 episodes ago, so
I
I
know.
don't think it's a secret.
And it helps me out because I get to advertise my channel and your channel.
That's right. That's right.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
That seems like a stupid idea to me rather than going with to Tesla, but it's like, I was talking to my neighbor's girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Because I talked to him and he hates it. He's looking for a new job.
Yeah.
Now we're going off tangents. This is what this show's about.
I know.
And I was talking to her, it's like, well, what's your impression? And she's like, he comes home and he just goes to sleep.
Yeah.
And then even though he supposedly gets longer weekends,
Mm-hmm.
literally one day is just spent sleeping.
I mean, is it just? I mean, there's lots of different jobs out there. Would you be doing the same thing he's doing?
He does an easier job than I'd be doing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, all right then. Yeah. I guess there's that.
Yeah, literally his job is to stay on the computer and make sure that it doesn't go offline.
Why is the
I
time
don't know. I thought the latest reports had said they'd only managed to manufacture 30 cars out there. So
Exactly.
they ain't working that hard.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah. Although I did see a Tesla P90 sitting outside my my building this morning. My God, is that a nice car? Yeah, that's a $100,000 car right there.
Yeah, I want to try the Model 3 or something?
The Model 3 is supposed to be the everyman car they're
Yeah, I
building.
was reading a review
Yeah.
of that. That does look a nice car.
Yeah, I haven't
Sounds
seen
fun.
one yet. Yeah.
Well, no, I think they made 30 of them.
Right? Yeah.
Oh wait, can you give a report on the Volt? No, is the Volt or the Bolt?
Volt. The Volt. We're liking it so far. So Seth, who was on a couple weeks ago, he actually went out of the country for a few months and was looking for a place to park his car. We have 2 spots at our place, and we were actually talking about going down to 1 car, just because, I mean, I walk here now, and
That's
we
right,
just-
you moved to the tower block downtown, didn't you?
Yeah, we're in we're in one of those big condo buildings downtown. So anyway, yeah, we've got 2 spots, and I said, well, maybe this will, if we sell 1 car, I said, we'll have a space for your car. And he's like, yeah, and if you want while I'm gone, one of you can just, put you on the insurance, one of you can drive it. So we said, okay, well, let's formalize this then. If we sell our car, then you let us use your car, and we put Rachel, my wife, on his insurance, and then she drives that back and forth to work. So this happened on Tuesday of this week, so like 4 days ago, and he gave it to us with about a half a tank of gas and about a half a charge on the electrical system. So it's a hybrid, but it's a plug-in hybrid. So it doesn't generate its own power like our Prius did, but our Prius was almost never full electric unless we were going super slow. But it used the electric and gas engine in tandem. Now his will go full electric. I mean, you can go flat out full electric until the charge is gone, and then it just switches to the gas engine after that. So it's not really a hybrid as far as the motor operation goes. And the cool thing is, she only works a few miles away, so that half a charge on the tank, it ran out, the electricity ran out last night on our way home, and unfortunately, we don't have a parking spot next to a power outlet, and you're not really supposed to run an extension cord. We can't run one in the building anyway. They told us you can't run an extension cord to somebody else, to an outlet on a column like 2 spots away. We're like, okay, so we tried to figure out what's going on. Well, there's a hotel right next to us, the El Dorado, and the bottom floor of their parking garage has 4 electric car parking spot charging areas that no one ever uses, and they're free. So we just parked we drove the car over there last night, plugged it in. I walked over with her this morning. She unplugged it, had a full charge on the battery, and she's back to electricity. So
Wow.
I think we've seen the charging points going out in the small towns across the desert.
yeah.
And you're like, who would ever be brave enough to get here to need one of those?
Well, and here's the thing too. I just rode to Las Vegas, and we saw in Hawthorne, and I think in it was either Beatty or Tonopah.
I think Tonopah.
Yeah, I think
saw them.
Tonopah.
Yeah.
But they're Tesla.
Oh
They're
yeah.
the Tesla charging points. Now, something I just found out yesterday, and this is good to
Yeah.
keep in mind if you've got an electric car or you're thinking about getting one. The Tesla charging stations. Now, I don't know about those big charging banks, but at the El Dorado, there was one that was labeled Tesla, and 3 others that are not. And we just pulled up to the first one, which happened to be the Tesla one, and I was like, okay, well, I'm sure these plugs are all the same, right? I mean, otherwise, how could they even get this market off the ground? Nope, not so much. The Tesla one was completely different.
Of course.
So we had to back up and pull up into the other one, and that worked. The more generic one.
No, those need to be universal. That's
I know.
ridiculous.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Are these Tesla ones that are in the middle of nowhere in Nevada? Are those? Is this just an older one and they didn't have like an adapter, or are these new ones that they're putting up? Will those work on any car, or is it literally just Tesla?
Oh, well, I do know they make adapters so that you can plug your Tesla into other ones.
I'm sure they do, but does it go the other way? Can you plug the Tesla one into yours?
Now, if Elon Musk has something to say about
Well, I'm sure of it. Now he seems like such a guy that's ready to change the world. Why would he make a proprietary port for the Tesla car unless he's got the arrogance of Apple and says, "Listen,
See?
this one's just better, and everybody's going to switch to it eventually."
Didn't he put the battery technology that he's using? I think he made that open source.
it. Oh,
He may
I
have.
think you can use his battery technology without a license. Now you probably got to buy them off him,
Right.
because who's
Well,
making them?
yeah.
But maybe that's his deal. I'm not something to
I don't
look
know.
into.
I don't know. It just seems like if he wants to make electric car gas stations all over the place, for lack of a better word, charging stations, I mean, they have to support everything. You know, why not have a standard?
Yeah.
Even Apple, the iPhone 8 Plus or 8 and the iPhone X are now wirelessly chargeable. So you can set them on those wireless charging mats that you see in coffee shops and stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
And they used the Qi or Key. QI? How do you pronounce that?
Oh.
Is it Key or is it Qi?
Well, it's the Android standard.
It's
for
the
wireless
it's the
standard.
everything standard.
Yeah.
Almost everybody uses that standard for wireless charging, and Apple didn't go try to invent their own. They were like, well, that's suicide, although they've done it before.
Yeah.
Oh, and I love the fact that the iPhone X has a Samsung screen.
I know Samsung does make the screen, but Intel makes the processor. So what are you gonna do?
Ha.
You know. And Qualcomm has some parts in there too, I think.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, lots of different companies have parts inside of any phone, really. Anyway, I don't know.
By the way, can I say it's interesting that Tonopah can't have McDonald's, can't support a McDonald's, but they have a Tesla charging station and a brewery.
Yes, which I ate at on the way down there. It was fantastic. Yeah, I had a tasty sandwich.
Oh my god.
What's crazy is the McDonald's is now a coffee shop. Like, how can they support a coffee shop but they can't support a McDonald's? You know, doesn't make any sense. And nobody has any clue what we're talking about that is
No.
watching this. So.
Oh my god, just like if I said don't eat at the Meadowwood food court because I learned stuff.
Yeah, I bet you did.
It is one of the better second-hand bookshops in the state, as far as I can tell.
Oh, which
The one
one?
in Tonopah?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
it is a decent bookstore. Yeah, we've gone in there lots of times. Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, every time I stayed at the Jim Butler down the street, we'd walk up to the bookstore at least once during a session. So,
Oh my god, the last time I was there, it was like triple bunking.
my God.
It was one of the things where we were camping originally, and then we're like, no.
Yeah.
It was April, but it was still like, no.
Nice.
And I learned everyone snores that
There
I
you
was
go.
working with.
There you go. All right. Well, Stuart, let me ask you a question, because we've talked about this on other podcasts before, and we're coming up into winter time in the Great Basin.
Mm-hmm.
How have you at least mentally planned for the winter, assuming your employer won't be able to keep you employed?
I am in complete denial. Just not even thinking about it.
That's the best thing.
That's what most people do, I would say.
Yeah.
Because I'm working in the office at the moment, I'm actually riding my bike
Nice.
in and out, which is really nice. And everyone keeps asking me, well, what are you going to do when it snows? Well, I'm certainly not going to be riding my bike in the snow. But no, I mean, it's too hard to plan. I mean, the next job, there's I don't know. I might end up staying on with this lot for a while, or I might. There's fieldwork opportunities coming up. Some in town and some out in the sticks, and I'm pretty good now. I've got the winter gear, but Christina's put it in boxes somewhere. And she will have told me in the spring where they've gone, and then expect me to remember that, which is impossible.
Right. That's
so marriage. Then I'll get shouted at for asking where they are, and as if you should remember.
That's marriage.
See?
Nice.
We have complementary skill sets. It does work.
Yeah.
She's always annoyed when mine aren't matching to hers.
That's right. Well, you've got that bar you built, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's your winter plan right there.
Yeah, we've added lasers now.
Lasers?
We have a laser light in the back room.
Sweet. Wow.
Nice. That's awesome. Welcome Eliza to the podcast, and she just wrote food. I don't know if that's because she's eating dinner while she's watching this, or if finding food is her winter plan. I'm not really sure. Hunter-gatherer mode is what we go into, really, I think, when shit hits the fan.
We're going around looking in the bins for...
Yeah.
Hey, it wouldn't be the first time an archaeologist went around looking in the bins for anything. Dumpster diving for receipts, which we've talked about.
But you know what's the most interesting part is the field techs who save up a bunch of money, and then by spring they're out because they refuse to apply for unemployment.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, I have $10,000 in the bank. Well, why don't you have $10,000 in the bank in spring?
Unemployment is a gold mine in the winter, especially in Reno, because you're required to send a certain number of, inquire about a job at a certain number of companies when you report your unemployment every week. But if you just tell your unemployment officer, because I've done this, listen, there's like X number of companies. I'm not going to seek new ones out every week. But the nature of this job is they're constantly getting in new work. So you basically just have your form list of companies that you've contacted, and you turn that in every week, and you collect the unemployment that you paid into. So, if you end up unemployed because there's no work, I mean, the first thing I would do, well, actually, it's November. I would sign up for unemployment now. You don't have to claim it.
Yeah.
And then by the time the day you go unemployed, you go in there and you hit the button, you start it, and then a week later you've got $400 check, for doing nothing. I mean, it might not be enough to totally pay the bills, but at least it's something.
Yeah.
There always seems to be a persistent rumour around here that this is somehow going to hurt your employment.
It doesn't.
I know, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And people are worried that somehow they are claiming this money back off their employer. They're not.
No.
I think some of it the paperwork gets processed through them or something.
So I will tell you exactly what happens because I'm an employer, and I laid off 8 people in mid-December because that's when our project ended. So they all went on unemployment. Like every single one of them went on unemployment, right? Did you go on unemployment when you left the project in El Centro?
No, I just started working at the bookstore.
Oh, well, there you go. But I think somebody from that project did. That didn't go on to Ridgecrest. Anyway, point is, it was wintertime. What the hell else were they going to do, right? So they all went on unemployment. I basically get a letter from the state of California, because that was the state that they were paying into, because that's where we were working. I get a letter from the state of California that says, this person is claiming unemployment. Is what they are saying true? Did they actually get laid off? Mm-hmm. And I have an opportunity right there to screw them and say no. But they basically just want honesty. They was like, listen, is this happening? Now, let me back up another step. If I pay you $1,000 and that's your take home, or let's say that's your gross, okay, that's what's on your paycheck, is $1,000. You're going to get $750 of that, or $700 of that, depending on how your taxes are, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I paid my payroll company $1,300 for your $1,000 because that other $300, I also pay the same amount of taxes you do to the state and to the government. So that's how your unemployment is getting paid. Now, the amount of unemployment benefits you get is based on how much you've paid in, not how much your employer's paid in. It's how much you've worked that year or the past 2 years or whatever the state's deal is.
So it doesn't save you any money to try to deny them.
It doesn't. You're basically giving the state an interest for your loan anytime you don't claim unemployment. All these people that actually work for 20, 30, 40 years, I mean, I don't know where all that money's going. They're paying into a massive system that this money's just sitting in a bank account somewhere, and it's being used by the state. So as archaeologists, covering other people's heritage and things like that, I feel like they owe us to, when we're off for the winter, instead of starving or doing something you don't want to do, like pushing your hand through spider webs, collect unemployment.
Yeah.
You know, now you can only collect it until you've taken out what they think you've put in. And it's not a direct correlation either. You don't get back exactly what you've put in. It's months worked versus months of unemployment, and the amount you get is dependent on the salary you are getting. And most archaeologists get the high end of the amount because that's, the unemployment scale is not that much different. So anyway, it doesn't hurt the employer. I didn't pay any extra when people were on unemployment and even extended their benefits. I mean, at least 2 of the people I know were on unemployment for like 6 months, right? That's just
really?
bullshit. They could have got a job, but they were on unemployment for 6 months, and I had to approve their extension too.
Really?
Yeah.
And this is just training that people don't receive.
Yes.
And I find that back in Europe as well.
Mhm.
That people don't know what their entitlements are, and
No.
they don't know the law, and they don't know their employment rights, which, over here are pretty minimal. As an employee, but it should still be something that they're taught. And there's just these rumours go around that claiming unemployment will somehow harm you, and people don't do it. It's crazy.
Yeah. One thing I have heard, and I don't have any solid statistics on this, is that if certain employers are laying people off and hiring them, laying them off and hiring them, and they're going on unemployment and back, that statistic is kept by the state. But whether or not it hurts the employer, I couldn't say, and I don't think it does, because they can't tell an employer, listen, you can't have employees anymore. Nobody's ever going to say that. It's a political issue, you know. They're not going to do anything like that. They're not going to raise your employment taxes. They're not going to do anything like that, at least not in this state, and not in California either.
In certain circumstances or certain senses, we are the perfect American industry because we are purely flexible.
Yeah.
The staff serve the needs of the company and not the other way around. So
That's right.
You're going in and out of jobs as and when you're needed.
Yeah.
So we're the perfect Donald Trump voters.
Yeah.
Wow.
Close, Richie. Close.
Real quick, Errol says hello. Hello, Errol. Nice
Yo.
to see you. I think he's down in the Caribbean somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember.
Do that.
He'll tell us. Anyway, yeah, you're right. It's a problem of education. I've tried to say that more than a few times on different podcasts. Collect unemployment. In fact, I would tell a graduate in May, I was like, okay, congratulations, you're now a full-time archaeologist. Here's the Shovel Bum's website. Here's your first trowel, and here's how to file for unemployment. Because you should do that right now. Get your information in the system. It's going to take several weeks for them to set you up.
Yeah.
And then, I set up I was probably 4 or 5 years ago that I last claimed unemployment, but I'm still in the system. So the only way you can't claim unemployment, I found out, is if you do in fact own your own company and it's not incorporated. Because if you're incorporated, you have to pay yourself a salary and taxes, and you get a W-2 at the end of the year. You're an employee of the corporation. But I'm an LLC, so I am the company. I still pay income tax on the stuff that I make, but I don't get a W-2 from my own company.
I think, and again, I'm still figuring this stuff out, but I mean, that's why I've been looking into it.
Yeah.
I think for Nevada, you have to work for 5 consecutive quarters before you're sort of able to receive unemployment.
They do look at your past history like that, yeah. Yeah.
So you've got to build up payments within this state before you're going to get anything back. But, I mean, 5 quarters, that's a year and a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you would have to have been fully employed throughout every week of those 5 quarters. I
Right.
suspect not. That
definitely
you're
not.
paying some money in.
Definitely not, because I've claimed unemployment in the state.
Well, and also consider if you picked up a W-2 from any other state, it means you paid into their unemployment system.
Yeah.
So look into collecting unemployment, at least maybe for a little while, in another state. Now, I would hesitate, because these states don't really talk to each other, but I would probably hesitate claiming unemployment in more than one state at a time. Although you could probably get away with it.
Well, I mean, I think they know, because if they'll just combine it or something.
I don't think they know at all. I think we're making them sound way more sophisticated than they are.
I think we're heading into an interesting new area here. Fraud for archaeologists.
We've got such a weird job. It's amazing. I wonder how many of us have or are committing fraud and don't even know it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're just doing our taxes completely wrong because we don't understand it. We got 17 W-2s and we don't know how to handle them.
Mm-hmm.
God, you know what's always
Yeah.
more baffling than people who won't claim unemployment is
Mm.
people who won't do workers' comp. Like they
Yeah.
injure themselves, like on an excavation, like they get ligament damage or something, and suddenly, like God, I'm not gonna mention his name, but we worked with him on Monte Cristo.
Right.
Yeah, he hurt his arm, or was it shoulder or something?
I don't remember.
And he wouldn't claim it.
Well, there's another effect of the mobility of the job is you get these long duration injuries where it's a strain from walking or traveling, doing it over months and years. Which company are you supposed to claim against?
Right.
You
All
know,
of them.
it's everyone I've worked for. Yeah, I mean, it's just a difficult situation.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's that's I'd say one of the bigger challenges we have in this field is the long repetitive strain injuries that we get. You're right. Who do you claim that against? We don't have a union that's giving us health benefits. That's one of the things we could do if we had that. That's why I'm a real fan of
Universal healthcare?
no, well that would solve lots of problems. But I'm a real fan of the type of company that simply doesn't exist. We interviewed this one company in Kentucky that's trying to do it, and I don't know how they're doing, but since I haven't heard anything about it and nobody talking about them, I'm guessing they're not nationwide yet. But the kind of company that just employs field techs, they don't write reports, they don't do anything. They send armies of field techs out, squads of field techs to companies, rather than the companies hiring the field techs individually. They hire this company as a subcontractor to do their field work, and that way you can bounce from job to job to job, but you're always working for the same company. Then you can build longevity, you can build an employee health care plan off of that, and now the employee actually has somebody to claim an injury against, quite frankly.
Wow, it's like Uber, but for field techs.
I mean, basically, it's like a temp agency.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
temp
I
agency.
when I first got out of the Navy, I worked for a technical, it was called Aerotech. It was high-tech, like aerospace industry jobs, but it was a temp agency.
They keep calling me.
Well, yeah, I mean, I did all kinds of stuff with them. I worked in Seattle at a company. I worked down in Tulsa when I went to flight school down there with the company, and all with Aerotech. And so I was at the same company for like 2.5 years, but I worked like 3 different jobs with them. So, but my benefits and my things like that were dependent upon the temp agency.
Yeah, I know a bloke in Sacramento is thinking of setting up something very much on that model. Don't know. I was talking to him in the summer. I don't know how far he's progressed with that, but it's definitely an alternative to just being on your own.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people say. I mean, we've talked about it on the CRM Arc podcast. It's difficult because you have to carry workers' comp insurance in all the states where you plan on sending people. You have to be very aware of the taxes. The first person I would hire if I was to start a company like that would be an accountant. The second person would be a lawyer. Then I'd start hiring field techs, and you really have to watch liability. There's another problem too. The problem is with the way our industry is structured. So if you're, let's say for example, I'm part of this contract, a Navy contract, right? So there's a prime contractor. They have subcontractors to work in all these states. The prime contractor basically is the contract manager for this whole thing. They're not even doing any work. This is just how it's set up with the government, right? They're not doing any work. They're managing finding other people to do the work because the government doesn't want to do it. So now you've got a prime contractor and you've got a subcontractor. Well, that subcontractor, if they hire another subcontractor to do some things, which is pretty common, like, for example, you've got the prime, let's just say they're a big name company, they hire an archaeology firm. The archaeology firm hires a GIS firm to do their GIS. Not uncommon, right? Or they hire an architectural historian, or they hire whoever. That's 3 deep. Well, that's technically 2 deep on the subcontractors, but it's 3 deep on the contractors from the Navy. As far as the Navy's concerned, the prime is the first contractor. Then you've got a sub and a sub. Well, in a lot of agencies, that's not allowed because they don't have oversight over subs so far down. Unless they had an oversight of all the subs going down and they were able to look at them. Because I've heard, I don't have any direct evidence of this, but I've heard Caltrans is really bad with that. They won't allow 2 to 3 deep subcontractors because they require the ability to look at your books, to look at your financial records to make sure everything's on the up and up when you do a project with them. But they can't look at a sub of a sub. They don't have authority that far down. So if you're like, oh yeah, our books are great, but the people who are really on the ground doing the work are 3 subs down, then that's bad. So this is why a lot of archaeology companies hire you on permanently to do a 2-week job, because you're not a subcontractor then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no liability there. You're an employee of that company, and now there's no ambiguity. But if they were to hire another company just to do the field work, that's now a subcontractor.
This is when you start picking up the healthcare paperwork and the pension paperwork for your 10-day rotation.
Yeah. So, anyway, lots of complications, but I think that's where we need to go. I'd love to see several nationwide companies that are just supplying all the field techs, because then we could standardize pay, we could standardize all kinds of stuff. Because if you have a company that works all across the nation, you know, the money you're bringing in for California and West Coast work is supplementing, you know, on the East Coast. And I think the high West Coast pay would probably drop a little bit, but the East Coast pay would come up a little bit, and we all meet in the middle somewhere.
Desperately needs to
do. Yeah. So, anyway.
Although some companies, it can't go down anymore in California.
Well, yeah, not all California companies are high pay. That's for sure. But in general, though, West Coast is higher than East Coast. You know, when you look at it.
Yeah, my first job was $18 an hour, and that's the way I thought it was going to be.
Nice.
That was almost 10 years ago.
My first job was $10 an hour, and I was like, I hope this isn't how it's going to be. Yeah, $10 an hour, no per diem. That was my first job. Ooh. Yeah, and my second one wasn't much better. We had 5 days a week. It was five days a week, but they covered the hotel throughout, like on the weekends too. Oh. And but we didn't get hotel per diem. We just got, I think it was $35 a day or something like that per diem, and $12 an hour. Mm-hmm. I want to say, yeah, that was my second job. Anyway, how does all this talk compare to the UK?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the same problems.
Oh, really?
We got there's a lot of discussion at the moment. There's been about self-employment. Mm-hmm. That a lot of companies have taught their staff into being self-employed, which certainly for Ireland, that's basically been shown to be illegal, because they're not meeting any of the terms under which you would be self-employed, which is typically defining your own hours of work, defining your own pay,
right?
Which are, you know, a right to do as a you know, if you're a company, you can tell them, and if they don't want to hire you, they don't. But your people are being put on as self-employed when they're not self-employed, and they're getting none of the advantages out of it. So that's one that I haven't heard of so much here. I mean, I don't know. Archaeologists are always moaning about the job, but we still stick at it, don't we? I always wonder about these. They always telling us at college about the transferable skills that we've got, but I don't know. Ability to drink too much and complain endlessly is a transferable skill.
Nice.
And the rest of the stuff is very specialised, you know. Well, people say there's a lot for education, and you know, I do a lot of lecturing and stuff, and that's great. And I guess I could get into the tourist industry maybe with some of that stuff. I've done quite a bit of tour guiding, which would be really nice.
Yeah.
But it's like what Richie's going through at the moment, and he's not sure whether he's transitioning into a new career or not. Mm-hmm. Trying to convince a normal employer that some of these things are skills, even. I mean,
right. Yeah, I think you really have to look hard at what you've done in archaeology. If you've done a lot of report writing or even site record writing, you can call that technical writing skills on your CV. You know, on your resume, you can call that technical writing. You can say, I mean, you just have to look at what are the other industry terms for what we do in certain circumstances, and how can that be translated, you know, to another industry. Like, I would never tell somebody, if I was looking outside of archaeology, I wouldn't be like, yeah, I know how to tell the difference between a shaft and an adit, and I know about features and things like that. Like, they don't know what that means.
Let me sit you down and tell you all about bean cans.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would never say that, but the ability to critically analyze situation and write descriptions about certain things. You know, the ability to look at something and write a detailed technical description about it is actually a pretty valuable thing. I mean, you could actually be almost like a catalog writer or something like that for a parts manufacturer. Look at forestry supply. You could write for forestry supply because you know how to write feature descriptions.
Ooh.
You know.
I mean, it's a fascinating subject. I've only it's only been a couple of times in my career where I've looked at getting out. I think it's not like the mob or anything. It's not like you can't leave. But,
Right.
When people do, and you see that they go on, I've got a friend back in Ireland who's Bob Chappell. Hi, Bob. He's now doing great stuff with computer testing, and all his analytical skills. He came on at a low level in his wife's firm, and he's just doing great guns because he can do all that procedural stuff, chronological stuff. But it'd be hard to guess that you could do that.
Yeah.
You know, I would have never thought to walk up to a software company, and it is corporate software as I understand it, and go, "Hey, you need me. Why do we need you, sir?" Well, let me tell you about bean cans.
That's right. That's right.
Well, it's interesting because I didn't think I'd do well with dealing with customers, but being out there and like having to deal with adversity in the fly and just be able to think straight is a surprisingly helpful skill, especially when everyone called in sick and you're the only one at the register and you have to do 3 people's jobs.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of par for the course when you're out there.
Well, I mean, the ability to learn something new quickly.
Yeah.
And to shift your responsibility at a moment's notice. You know, like, I'm done recording features now. What can I do, crew chief? You can record artifacts. You can do photos. You can do this. You know, which means I have the ability to switch rapidly from one task to the next, very different tasks, and do that, you know, with speed and efficiency. So that's sought after in lots of fields.
Yeah,
you know?
And it's not something that your average field tech thinks about when they're trying to get out.
No, probably not. Probably not. So. But then again, this is also stuff we can flip this on its head too and say, if you're going to look for winter work, to bring this back around to the fact that it's the beginning of November, if you're going to find another job over the winter, maybe you can find something that has transferable skills back into archaeology. You know, something that helps you. Maybe you can find some sort of writing gig or something like that, or whatever. I don't know what it would be, but something that would help you transfer. You know, build up your skill set for archaeology without just, you know, and also maybe make you a little money at the same time.
Yeah.
So, well, I think, you want to switch to the other screen? Yeah. I think we're going to probably call this episode soon, so we'll put up the, we'll put up the outro screen and you can subscribe. Richie's, these videos can be found on Richie's channel at
Happy Archaeology Fun Time. Yeah.
Nice. On YouTube. And some really great stuff over there. Have you interviewed Stuart on that?
No.
Oh my God, you need to interview Stuart.
Although, I am now rearranging. Now that I have so much space at my apartment, I can actually start filming there again.
Hey, there you go.
I'm not even joking.
Nice.
Although
nice.
I mostly cleared it out so I can play guitar.
It's getting a little cold to go to the park and film outside.
Lies.
Yeah, no. And then if I ever get the audio done with these things, which I probably won't, you can find them on the Archaeology Podcast Network. But of course, if you're hearing this, it's on Facebook. This is episode 17. The 16 other episodes are still. I know, I saw Corbin on there.
Hey, what's up?
The 16 other episodes are still on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
So if you want to comment and watch this, and if you do watch it, you can still leave comments. We'll see those comments, and the comments are time-stamped to the video in that point in time. So anybody else watching it will see your comment show up at the normal time. There just won't be any interaction with your comment. And it's hard for me to interact with what the rest of the things Eliza was saying because they were all one-word responses. She said donuts because I think that's what she's eating. Plats, I'm not sure what plats means. And then Errol said he's from St. Lucia. St. Lucia. Where is that? That's somewhere down in the Virgin Islands, isn't it?
In the Caribbean.
Yeah. I knew he was in the Caribbean.
St. Lucia.
St. Lucia. St. Lucia. I think you're right. Yeah, there you go. My American spelling and pronunciation of that.
Well, this is where the knowledge about cricket comes in handy.
Nice. Nice. Solid cricket team, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, the West Indies. Oof.
Nice. And now that there's crickets from our audience, because we started talking about cricket. No, I'm just kidding.
Chris, would you like me to tell you all about the beautiful game of cricket?
I actually would not.
You know what was interesting is that when I first started my career, I lived near UC Riverside, and I would go running around the town, and there was actually a cricket team that would be practicing, like a private club, just practicing as I'd be running by.
Nice.
It's actually one of the best sports for archaeologists, because you get a 5-day game, 8 hours of play a day. It sorts your whole week out. People are like, what were you up to this week? I don't know, cricket was on. But I was happier.
Nice. All right, well, we're going to call this episode, and consider yourself privileged to have been in the presence of the iPhone X now. It's now expected to be. I mean, I get these things so I can try them out, so you don't have to. It's the cross-eyed bear, really. Anyway, and I will tell you, and my wife's calling. I told her I was in a podcast until 6:15.
Too late.
Anyway, I will tell you about this. If you do consider getting a new device, consider one of the basically payment plans. I'm on the AT&T plan. I did not pay $1,200 for this phone. I pay $38 a month for it. Now, that's only because I also got the 256 gigabyte size. But the next one down, 64. They didn't do anything in between. I mean, you almost can't even use a 64 gigabyte phone these days. But if you were to go down, I mean, it's closer to the $30 range, I think, for the X.
Or consider used. Because there's some really cool, reputable websites.
Yeah, Gazelle, things like that. Although if you want the newest one, it's not going to be on there just yet. But if you want an 8 Plus, if you're in the iPhone crowd, or you want an X, like I said, consider the plan. I mean, it's 18 months or 24 months if you want it to be cheaper, and you pay by the month.
And you're going to be paying your phone bill anyway.
You're going to be paying your phone bill anyway. Yeah, if you're going to buy a new phone, you don't want to shell out $1,200. Now, the only thing is, if you break that phone, I mean, you're going to have to buy it outright. Or you're going to have to deal with a broken phone if it's not broken. I mean, you can buy insurance on top of it, of course. But if you don't have the insurance and you're on the payment plan and 6 months into it, you break it, well, if you want a new phone, you're going to have to pay off the balance of that phone.
Oh, and I also learned last time I renewed my plan that if you go to Best Buy and you renew your plan through them, they give you $100 to spend at Best Buy, which is how I got my TV for $50.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're going to call it. Hopefully Richie mutes the mics this time when we're done. And
I'm not.
I know. And we will say goodbye. Thank you, Stuart, for coming on the show.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks.
All right.
See you guys. Ugh.